Welcome to Gospel Tangents, the best source for Mormon history, science, and theology. I'm Rick Bennett. I'm excited to have Gary Weber on. He's a Strangite from Wisconsin. You just met him in the previous episode as we toured the Hill of Promise. We're going to talk more about the Strangite Church, the letter of appointment, and a lot of other stuff to get acquainted with the Strangites. So you won't want to miss this conversation. Check it out. Welcome to Gospel Tangents. I'm excited to have a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints here, but it's not my church. Could you go ahead and tell us who you are and where are we?
We're in Burlington, Wisconsin, and it's the headquarters of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints Strangites. At the death of Joseph Smith, we followed James Strang, and Voree, Burlington, Wisconsin was our headquarters that God instructed him for the people following James Strang to move from Nauvoo and whereabouts to Burlington, Wisconsin.
Okay. And so, because the town was originally named Voree, and we're going to talk about why that is. Do you know when it changed to Burlington?
Well, I think only the Mormons called it Voree because of the Voree record.
Okay.
I showed you the other day that was underneath a tree, and they dug it up, and it was an ancient record that he used, the Urim and Thummim that he got from the angel Moroni, and he translated it, and it was a very short record of a people that were no more, similar to the Nephites on the hill of Cumorah, that they killed each other off for the most part. It was originally called Foxville.
Foxville.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then later it became called Burlington.
Okay.
And it was even called Burlington when James Strang lived here and led the people to here.
Okay.
But amongst the Mormons, there was a certain part of the town over on the west side that they called Voree, where the Mormon settlement was. But it was officially a part of the Burlington township.
Oh, okay. So it's always kind of been Burlington. Okay. Well, very good. So for those of you who don't remember, back in 2019, I interviewed Bill Shepard, who's is he kind of he's your official church historian, right?
Yes.
And so Bill's such a great friend. But I thought it would be fun to have somebody else on. And so yesterday went to church here in Burlington, and Gary took us on a tour of different strands. I had no idea that you had so many sites. That was really cool. And so we're going to learn a little bit more about the history. With Bill, we talked a lot about James Strang, and of course, we'll talk about James Strang. But wanted to get a little bit more kind of church history, and you seem like you know a lot. So
I don't know as much as Bill does, but I know a little bit.
Yeah. So for those of us who don't, I remember, but so I always get new listeners and they don't know how your church started. And so can you talk just kind of a brief thumbnail sketch about how you guys went from Joseph Smith to James Strang?
Yeah. Joseph Smith, he knew his ministry was starting to be end, and he says, "I'm going like a lamb to the slaughter." He knew his mission was over with, and he knew that he was supposed to appoint a successor, and he dispatched different people to go to a lot of different places. Texas, James went to Wisconsin. From one person went out to California, and they dispatched different places looking for a new place for the saints to gather, because they knew that the persecution was getting too great in Nauvoo. And so James was dispatched. He was baptized by Joseph Smith and made an elder of the church. And he was dispatched to the Burlington area, and he wrote him back and told him that he felt that Voree would be a wonderful place for a gathering place because of the Great Lakes. There was a lot of fish and fresh water and great farmland, good soil.
And there is a lot of farmland around there.
Yeah. And so he wrote back to Joseph Smith, and at first Joseph Smith was of the impression that he didn't think that that was the right place, but Hiram thought otherwise. And then a little bit later, after they discussed it, he said then the Spirit came over him and told him that Voree was the right place for the saints to move from Nauvoo.
Told James Strang.
No, it told Joseph Smith.
Oh, okay.
I mean, earlier, James thought it was a good place, because of all the amenities that was here in Wisconsin. And Joseph Smith remarked, because at first he didn't think that it was the best place, but like I said, Hiram thought otherwise. But then a little bit later, the Spirit came over Joseph Smith, and he kind of laughed to himself and said, "Oh, the littleness of man," because his first mortal man opinion was, thinking like a man. But once God, inspires you and tells you something, then, the mind of the Lord rather than the mind of just a mortal man. And so he wrote James Strang what is now called the Letter of Appointment, which the original copy, after it circulated all over everywhere, and people witnessed it, it is now in the Yale University in the Cole collection. And we have copies of it, and I have a pamphlet I can give you that is a copy.
And I saw a copy in the church.
Okay. And it's the letter from Joseph Smith to James Strang, appointing him to be his successor. And this goes along with Ezekiel 37, where it talks about a man that was of the tribe of Ephraim, which Joseph Smith was, that he would bring forth the stick of Ephraim, which is the Book of Mormon. And then after that, there was to be a man that was in the last days, in the Gentile dispensation, that a man from the tribe of Judah, which James Strang was of the tribe of Judah, would write the stick of Judah, which we believe is the Book of the Law. And the Book of the Law was translated by James Strang after the angel Moroni gave him the plates of Laban that, we're familiar with in the story of Nephi getting Laban. So
he did that on Beaver Island, is that right?
No, he did that on Beaver Island.
Okay.
And I think he started part of it here, though. But in the Book of the Law, which I can give you a copy of it, it tells which parts of the Book of the Law are off of the plates of Laban that he translated with the Urim Thummim, and then other parts are just articles that he wrote, like on the priesthood and the true God and things, the Eucharist and things like that. They're just articles of his, of just teachings about different aspects of the gospel. But remember in the history where the angel told Joseph Smith to not touch the sealed record, that they were for somebody else. And so Joseph Smith translated the Book of Mormon, but the sealed record was the Book of the Law that was meant for this next guy who's of the tribe of Judah. And James Strang was a lawyer by profession, and he also was a member of the House in Michigan. And they said that he wrote some of the best laws that Michigan State ever had.
Because he was a state senator or something like that?
Yeah, something like that, yeah. And so we have the two sticks, the Book of Mormon and the Book of the Law.
Okay.
The law was that Moses had written from the tablets of stone that the Jews had kept.
So I know in our church, we think that the stick of Judah is the Bible.
Yeah.
But you think it's the Book of the Law.
Right.
Book of the Law of the Lord is the official
right,
name.
Because the Book of the Law was in part of the Bible, but it's not now. Remember that story in the Old Testament where king or the high priest Hilkiah, he said, "I have found the Book of the Law." It had been lost somewhere in the temple, and they read it in front of all the people and said, and they shouted out, "We will obey the law," and they covenanted they would obey the law. That was originally part of the Bible, which was part of the 5 books of Moses was there, and then all the other Bible stories with King David and so forth. But the book of law was part of the Bible. But the Bible can't, in our mind, can't be the stick of Judah, because the Bible was written by many different people. Like Moses was of the tribe of Levi, and all these various men were of various tribes. But the stick of Judah was to be written by a man who was of the tribe of Judah, and that was translated by James Strang, who was of the tribe of Judah. So we believe that that's part of the Ezekiel 37, talking about the 2 prophets in the last days that would come.
Okay.
Those 2 tribes. And then if
he got that designation through a patriarchal blessing or something, because he's not from Jewish descent, is he, James?
Yeah, he was.
Oh, he has Jewish ancestry?
Yeah.
Oh, he does?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. And then if you read the latter part of Ezekiel 37 and Isaiah 11, it talks about in the last days another prophet of the house of Judah, just like Jesus and James was, that's going to take the gospel to the house of Israel in the last days. And so that's where you get that, the Jews shall be first, and the last shall be the Gentiles, and then the ones that were last shall be first. After the 1260-year period, the gospel goes back to the Gentiles, and then after that, it goes back to the house of Israel. And so this next prophet, it talks about even in the scriptures that and David shall be my servant, and he'll be even greater than Moses. And he's going to gather the Israelites from the 4 corners of the earth and start a ministry and a dispensation among the house of Israel. And included in the house of Israel will be the American Indians and the 10 half-lost tribes that were led to the north countries when they were led away captive by the Assyrians.
Okay. Well, we've skipped a couple of other important events, but I appreciate you giving me all that background. Because before the book of the 2 events I want to talk a little bit about are the Voree Plates, because he got those before he got the book of the law.
Right.
And then also the Angelic Ordination. So, as we're going through, Joseph Smith did send James Strang up to Wisconsin on a mission.
Right.
And then, so there's the letter of appointment. But can you talk a little bit about how the Angelic Ordination fits into this story? And then we can go into the Voree Plates as well.
Okay. The very moment that Joseph Smith was assassinated,
June 27th, 1844.
Yes. Angels appeared to James J. Strang and ordained him a prophet. And so he had told some of the people in the area that lived in where he lived and at the post office where I showed you, and told them that he had been ordained the next prophet and that James was dead. And
that Joseph was dead.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, and that Joseph was dead. But there hadn't been any letter or any word from Nauvoo up to here. And the only way he knew that was because the angels appeared to him.
Was it Moroni, or do we know the name of the angel?
He says the same angels that ordained Joseph Smith. So it would have been Peter, James, and John.
Oh.
And then he said that because he was of the royal line of King David, that only someone who had the keys of the royal line of King David could ordain him to be a king like Jesus and David was. And so Jesus also anointed him to be the king of Israel to the Gentile dispensation.
Oh, wow. Okay. And so that would have happened on, well, I don't know when he received the letter of appointment, or
that was
because the ordination was after the letter of appointment. Is that right?
I believe that's correct.
Okay. And so the ordination happened the day Joseph Smith died. And then, so then talk about how the Voree Plates fit into all this, and especially the Hill of Promise.
Yeah, the angel Moroni showed him in a vision where these plates were at on the hill of
It was Moroni?
Patmos. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And so he got a gather of leading citizens to be witness. And so they went to the site where the plates had been buried at the base of a tree. And it was a small enough tree that was about, they say about the size of a man's waist. And so they didn't have to dig down, but maybe 4 feet or so. And then you could see the roots. And the tree had grown up around the roots, and the tree had grown up around underneath the plates where the plates were at. And so they dug out and they had to remove some of the tree roots out of the way. And it was inside there, and they pulled it out, and it was in an earthen case. And when it hit the air, it crumbled because it was so old. And so the plates were examined by people, and they said, yes, this is a ancient record. And they had a newspaper man from Kenosha that happened to know about what was going on. So he came here to report about it, and they put it in the paper at that time and said that what had happened, that these leading men of Burlington had witnessed this, that the ground had not been disturbed, and that the ground was hard, and that no one had dug up earlier and put it there. There was no sign of anything other than that encasement had been there for centuries.
Mm-hmm.
And so they all, even the man from Kenosha was very impressed and said it seems to be truly an ancient record. And then the road I gave James Strang the Urim Thummim, and he translated it. And it's
No cedar stone.
yeah, well, not a stone. The actual Urim Thummim in the breastplate.
Okay.
Just like Joseph used to translate the Book of Mormon. And he translated it, and I don't know if Billy showed you a copy of it, but it's just a little brief history that he wanted to show that they were there. And he says, "My people are no more."
Yeah, I've seen it. Bill didn't mention it, but I've seen images of it.
Yeah, I think I've got one I can give you.
Okay, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
And so it's just a few plates. It's not like 500 pages like what Mormon. It's much shorter.
It's just a short little notation that he wanted people to know that he had been there. But what was most interesting about it is that it had a pictorial drawing of the structure of the priesthood.
Okay.
It showed the prophet lawgiver, his 2 viceroys, and then the 12 apostles, and the high priest, and the 70s, and it goes down and everything. But it's from something that was carved that long ago and had the true structure of the priesthood that only Mormons really understand. That structure is remarkable.
And you call yourselves Mormons, right?
Oh yeah.
And you have basically, our churches have the same name, just we have a dash and you don't, and you have a capital D and we don't.
Right. But we believe in the Book of Mormon and the Doctrine and Covenants that was written in a edition when he was alive, that we know there's not been any interpolations or anything, or revelations received by other men.
Okay. Yeah. And so did that happen in 1844, 1845?
Yeah, he established the 1844 edition of the Doctrine and Covenants before he died. And there was the 1835 edition of the Book of Doctrine and Covenants, and the 1833, which was called the Book of Commandment.
Right. Okay.
And we believe in the Book of Abraham and the Book of Moses.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay. So let me make sure I'm clear on that. So the Voree Plates, were those translated in 1844?
Yeah, somewhere in there.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, so you guys also believe in the Doctrine and Covenants. It was interesting. I don't remember if it was you or Bill. One of the two of you said, you still use the LDS edition of the Doctrine and Covenants. You used to try to use the RLDS edition, but you and the RLDS Church had some tough feelings, and so you abandoned RLDS and went to the LDS. Is that right?
No,
As far as the Doctrine and Covenants?
yeah, no, I've not known anyone to use the RDLs.
Oh,
I mean, this is mine right here.
okay.
This is I've had this since I was a young man. This is the 1974 edition of the Doctrine and Covenant.
Oh, okay. And that's the
Salt
LDS
Lake
edition.
City, Utah.
Yeah. Okay.
But I don't know anybody that doesn't use this.
Oh, okay.
No, we don't have any bad feelings towards RDLs. Some of the people that were Strangites, when James Strang started practicing polygamy, left and went to the RLDS,
Right.
and some went to Utah, and we don't have we go to their sites and visit and go to their church and
Okay.
so forth. Well, we don't have.
But you lost a lot of members to the RLDS. I hope you enjoyed our conversation with Gary Weber of the Strangite Church. In our next conversation, we're going to dive into James Strang's polygamy and baptism for the dead.
We believe that only a prophet can usher in a dispensation for polygamy.
Okay.
And if it's against the law, we don't believe that God would really truly put people in a position to break the law and maybe go to jail.
Thanks for listening, and I hope you to continue to enjoy Gospel Tangents. Consider becoming a Patreon or go to gospeltangents.com/shop, and you can get a cool tie, a hat, or even a nice mug. You can also get a sweatshirt. So check it out at gospeltangents.com/shop.